to the Black Financial Channel. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. I hope you guys are doing well. I wanted to jump in today to, first of all, wish you a good morning. And second of all, to give you a couple quick updates on what's going on in the world of finance. I want to make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to theblackfinancialchannel.com. It is a Black-owned daily financial news channel that comes from a Black perspective. So you guys will see me on here every day, and pretty soon I'll bring in some guest commentators and stuff like that, so we can kind of spread it out a little bit. But for now, let's break it down. Let's break down some of this financial news. Uber is big in the news right now. I don't know if any of you guys are invested in Uber stock. Shout it out if you are. And I'm going to just kind of give you a quick breakdown of what's going on with Uber. Right now, Uber stock has taken a pretty deep dive. It's recovered from a little bit of that dive, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The original reason for the dive, it dropped about 4% today, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason for the dive is because the London authorities have basically taken away Uber's license. They've told Uber that they cannot operate in London after their license is no longer renewed. Now, as of now, they're still allowed to operate. And my argument is that this is why the stock price didn't stay down. I'm going to read some of this right here from Market Watch. It says shares of Uber. Wait, give me 1 second here. Hold on. Let me back up. I got the wrong article in front of me. Give me 1 second here. Let me see here. All right. So hold on. I screwed up. Here we go. Uber loses its London license. It's just suffered a significant setback in one of its biggest markets. London transit officials have decided not to extend the company's license beyond midnight local time Monday. So Monday at midnight, if you live in London, how many of you live in London? If you live in London, shout it out. It's a midnight on Monday. They cannot operate in London. In a statement, the Transport for London, the TfL, had said it identified a pattern of failures that placed passengers at risk. It said that 14,000 trips were taken recently that involved unauthorized drivers who were able to pass themselves off as Uber drivers. So this is kind of scary, right? What they're basically saying is that 14,000 on 14,000 occasions, which is not a trivial number, they've had unauthorized drivers, loading up their profiles and pretending to be the actual driver, and then driving off with the passenger or to God knows where. And this is personal because my stepson got into an Uber, and the Uber driver was not who he said he was. And he actually tried to get money out of him, and it kind of became a big mess. And so ultimately, Uber is really dealing with an existential crisis, in my opinion, because London, when London spits you out, other cities around the world might get the courage to spit you out. When London loses confidence in you, other cities might also lose confidence in you. When London starts to look at you with the side eye and investigate you, other cities are going to look at you with the side eye and investigate you. So the thing about this situation in London that's interesting to me is that this is not just a London phenomenon. Around the globe, people have had concerns about Uber. They had a lot of issues with, just the way they ran their company, kind of like WeWork. They're kind of becoming the new WeWork, in my opinion, where, you had this company that sort of, just did things that were just kind of messy, kind of reflected in arrogance that comes out of Silicon Valley with these young guys that get all this money and all this power suddenly, and they start kind of doing things in a haphazard way. They start behaving in a reckless fashion, similar to Wall Street bankers, who are 28 years old and have $10 million in the bank, and they're getting hyped up on cocaine and getting into all kinds of stuff. Like the Uber culture sounded like that, almost like a frat boy party culture. Which is interesting because they're running a multi-billion-dollar company. In fact, the company's market valuation when it first went to the market was about 70 billion. And once they put it out on the market, the valuation has dropped from 70 billion to about 45 billion. So what's that up? It's $25 billion in value just disappeared. Where did that money go? It didn't just disappear into thin air. This money was lost by people who believed in Uber and bought it at the initial offer price of about $45, right? So so now it's not trading at 45 anymore. It's trading, I believe, let me pull this up. I believe Uber stock is trading about $29. So if you look at Uber over the last 6 months, the stock has dropped and dropped and dropped. Now recently, as of just a couple of days ago, analysts were saying, okay, it's time to start buying Uber. Uber has a chance to become profitable. They're getting their stuff together. They spent the last 2 years really tightening the ship, kind of what WeWork is doing. They're cleaning up the mess after the party. They're moving the grown folks in, letting the grown-ups run the company. And so they're saying, okay, nothing to see here. Everything's fine. You can invest. So investors are actually starting to turn the corner on Uber and to actually support the company and to buy at the current stock price. But this London situation actually concerns me. London is not a tiny player. London is a big city, and London losing confidence really personally. This is not something you'll read anywhere because I haven't seen anybody who said this, but I personally feel that this is where I think I might get off the boat when it comes to Uber, because I believe that globally you may see a herding effect. Herding is when like sheep herd each other. I believe you're going to see other companies out there, or other cities out there that are going to say, we don't want Uber in our city either, because the cab drivers already hated Uber. I mean, I remember when I went to London, I got into an Uber, and I remember, when we got our Uber, like the cab drivers are sitting there just pissed, like just like this, like mad at them, mad at us, give those mean British looks, and I don't blame them. I mean, to be a cab driver, you got to go through all kinds of bells and whistles and hoops, and from what I understand, the test you have to take to be a cab driver in London is insane. I mean, ridiculous, like harder than graduate school. So you got to feel for the cabbies a little bit, but at the same time, innovation occurs and things change. I think that what is happening also is that people are starting to really double scrutinize these really immature companies. I think that when you have venture funds like SoftBank, run by Mayoshi Son, which has had $100 billion to throw around into different industries, and they're dumping all this money on 25, 30, 35-year-olds who are running these companies. I think you're just kind of seeing like what happens when you're that sloppy with it. Like money is almost too cheap right now. It's too easy to get money. And so these companies are growing at an astronomical rate, but they're running the companies like frat houses or piggy banks, frat house piggy banks. How about that? The founder of WeWork, Adam Newman. Yes or no if you knew this. Anybody know about the founder of WeWork, Adam Newman? I did a video about him. Give me a yes or no if you're aware of Adam Newman at WeWork. Give me a yes or no. Hit the thumbs up button while I wait for you. I'm gonna wait for your answer. Give me a yes or no if you saw what happened with WeWork and if you know about Adam Newman, the former CEO at WeWork. Okay, I see a no from Wahid. Naya says yes. Omiltrack says yes. Okay, I see a lot of yeses. Yeah, Adam Newman is a young guy who was running WeWork into the ground, running it worse than you would run like your local Burger King, right? And he basically got paid $1.7 billion to quit his job. $1.7 billion to quit his job. I know black folks will get fired for free. And this man got $1.7 billion to quit his job. So I don't know, that's either a testimonial to how crazy the world's gotten or a reminder that, you could probably do better in your life by owning your own business. Even if it's not a big business and it's not making a ton of money, most business owners who can, get customers and get sales are able to live a decent life, a better life than a working class person, even if the company ain't profitable yet. See, a lot of people get caught up in this idea that, oh, you must make a profit. You must be profitable to make money in a bit. No, you don't. No, you don't. There have been people like Trump who run unprofitable companies for decades and live a very lavish lifestyle because the tax laws and the tax benefits are slanted in favor of investors, in favor of business owners. That's why, so they can go live a better life than you and I or a lot of people, and they get to write a lot of that off. Like, yeah, I went on vacation to Tahiti, but it wasn't really a vacation because I had a meeting while I was there, so I got to write it off. So instead of it costing me $20,000 to go to Tahiti, it only cost me, 13 or 14,000 because I get to write it off on my taxes. So I encourage you guys to learn how to play the game. I also encourage you to not believe these people who are scaring you out of investing in the stock market. Sure, there are companies out there like Uber that are a mess, but I know the financial theory. I know the data. I've analyzed trillions of gigabytes or not trillions, but thousands of gigabytes of data on how the market works and everything else. And I can just tell you that the market has a mechanism, a way of kind of correcting the nonsense, right? And so, what'll happen is a lot of people, and I had this debate this morning. I want to share this with you guys. Somebody was, I said something about learning how to invest in the stock market and why that's important and why that's a big part of the reason for the wealth gap between the rich and the middle class. And inevitably, there are always the doubters that step forward. And I don't blame them. because I can understand you hear media tells you things. It's easy to believe these things. And they'll say, oh, well, Dr. Boyce, you're guiding people in the wrong direction. You shouldn't tell them to invest because the stock market is a Ponzi scheme. The stock market is a mess. The stock market is a house of cards. It's going to fall down. The stock market, eventually the economy is going to crash. There's all these doom and gloom scenarios. Give me a yes or no if you've heard this. Like, give me a yes or no if you've heard people basically telling you that investing in the stock market is a bad idea and that it's going to, that the world's going to come crashing down and it's all going to be a big mess. Give me a yes or no if you've seen any of these arguments or theories. Yes or no? Right. Now let me just tell you, if you want to know, it's time you leaving? Yeah. Okay. I love you. All right. See you soon. All right. Bye. So here's the thing. I'm not trying to say that the game ain't rigged. I will never tell you that the game is not rigged. The game is heavily rigged. Rich people are rich for a reason, right? And it ain't always because they work harder than other people. In fact, it's never because they work harder than other people. It's because they work differently. I'm not even going to say work smarter, because that almost says that's almost insulting. The game is heavily rigged. But here's what you got to understand, or here's a question you can actually ask anybody who tells you that the stock market is a mess, it's a fraudulent thing, you're going to lose all your money. All you do is you ask them this question. You say, okay, I hear what you're saying. I talked to this guy named Dr. Boyce Watkins. He cusses a lot, but he seems like a decent guy, and he seems to have some training in this area. And he asked me a question to ask you. If the stock market crashes, which it always will, it's always crashed, can you name any time in American history where the stock market has crashed and did not recover? Name one time in American history where the stock market went down, like everybody lost their money, and it did not recover, giving you a chance to make all that money back and then some. Name one time where the market dipped and did not go beyond, did not only recover, but went beyond where it was before the dip occurred. Name one time that's ever happened in American history. I will give you $1 million if you can name one time in the history of this country where that's happened. Right, it's never happened. I've looked at the data. Like it's never happened. That's like me asking you. That's like me talking to Chris or Vanessa and saying, let's say that Vanessa's worried about getting sick, and I say, okay, Vanessa, well, tell me one time in your life where you got sick and you died and you never came back to life. Tell me one time where you died and you were dead and went to heaven and were gone forever. Can you tell me that time? Well, you know the answer to that question, right? There is no time where Vanessa died and didn't come back because Vanessa's right here talking to me. So there's never been a time where the market crashed and the people who held on or kept investing deeper during the crash didn't make more money. See, people act like things like the Great Depression are bad times in American history. Well, there are a lot of wealthy families who made all their money during the Great Depression. There are lots of wealthy families out here who consider the Great Depression to be their big break, their big opportunity. There are people, just like there are people in Detroit right now who are buying every house they can get their hands on because they see the distress of Detroit as an opportunity for building wealth. So what I'm just trying to say to you is I'm just going to just tell you, like, don't fall for the hype. Just ask them that basic question and then keep it moving. Like, don't try to argue with them all day. If people are stuck on, their old ideology, that's fine. But what the problem is that you have a lot of people who aren't moving forward economically and instead are just sitting there watching other people build wealth and hating on that, just being mad about it. Like, I'm mad. Like it's one thing if you're talking about, some kid who inherited $10 million. I'm not asking you to compare yourself to somebody like that. I'm talking about a guy that had the same job as you. Y'all both worked at Ford. Y'all both made, $30 an hour, whatever. And one guy was spending his money on Popeye's chicken and new cars and looking fly and dropping $3,000 every Christmas and everything else. And the other guy was maybe buying a little fast food, but putting a lot of his fast food money into the stock market. He would buy some nice stuff for Christmas, but he also bought his kids shares of stock. He also drives a decent car, but he also made sure that he put an equivalent amount of money into his long-term investments. In 20 years, one of those guys has an extra $100,000 in the bank. The other guy has $100,000 worth of haterade in his blood. One guy is on his way to wealth. The other guy is sitting on the sidelines just mad because he chose not to participate. And I can just tell you, it happens all the time. I had friends like that when I was younger who were like, I don't know why you studying all the time. You should go to the party. I was like, no, I'm going to study now instead of going to the party, because when I'm 40, you're going to be mad at me because I'm successful and you're not. And you are, because you've been trained in this backward thinking. You're going to think that I'm successful because I got lucky. You're going to think I'm successful because the white man favored me over you. You're going to think I'm successful and you're not, because somehow I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and none of that is true. The reason I'm going to have more than you is because, and I said this when I was 20. I'm not kidding. I wasn't as smart as I am now, but I wasn't stupid. And I remember saying, I said, people like you are the ones who don't participate and then get mad when other people do something different from you and then they do well. And then you try to find some way to explain it away and to say that the reason for the differential is just because of racism. Why does that argument, why is it an easy argument to make? Well, because racism is real. We know it's out there. We know that there are people who don't treat each other right for whatever reason, right? But I ain't never met a white man who told me I couldn't buy a share of stock. I just haven't. Maybe he's out there. Maybe there's some magical white man who's got the power to tell me what to do with my money. But if he exists, I ain't met him yet. So I'm just trying to tell you, you got to get off. We got to, as a community, we got to get out of this whole woe is me attitude where we will sit here and do nothing and then use racism as our excuse to do nothing. Right? In fact, racism shouldn't be an excuse for you to do nothing. Racism should be the reason that you do more. Right? Racism is the reason why you try harder, not the reason why you give up and then sit back and complain and hate on people that are doing something different. So I'm here. I know a lot of you guys, I'm preaching to the choir in the sense that a lot of you understand this already. I just want to encourage you and reinforce you. And I'd like to give you guys ammunition psychologically that you can utilize in your personal debates with other people. Maybe you got people in your family. Anybody else got any backward people in their family? Yes or no? Shout it out. Raise your hands if you got backward people in your family who will hear you talk about investing and don't want to listen, don't want to participate, think that it's stupid, will give you conspiracy theories, and all that energy they're putting into hating on you could be spent actually building something, right? Anybody else got stupid people in their family? I do. We all do, right? I'm going to call them stupid. Let's not call them stupid. They're misinformed. They're misguided. Because it's much easier to believe a conspiracy theory than it is to believe a solution, right? It's much easier to lean on an excuse than it is to lean on an opportunity, right? And so ultimately, I share this with you, to basically say, look, when you run into these people who are going to tell you, oh, the stock market's bad, and they've reduced the value of the dollar, and it's going to be worthless, and all these things are true. I mean, I even had somebody on my blog that quoted quantitative easing. And I was impressed that they knew what it was. And they said, well, Doc, you're misleading people. And quantitative easing says that blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen those documentaries. My God, the quantitative easing is kind of out of control right now. But quantitative easing wasn't invented last year. It wasn't invented 5 years ago. They've been doing that for a very long time. And here's the thing. For everybody that tells me that, all hell's going to break loose, the economy's going to crash, anybody who invests in the stock market is going to lose everything. Check this out. They've been saying that for like 60 years. Like they've been saying that for like 2 or 3 or 4 generations. You could go back to the 1930s and you had people who said that, especially during the Great Depression, you had people who said, don't invest. The prices are too high. It's going to plummet. The whole economy is going to crash. We're all going to go down and blah, blah, blah. And so they would sit there on the sidelines and not participate. And then you had people who said, no, well, I'm not going to put all my hope in the stock market, but I'm going to participate. I'm going to put some of my money there. Whatever little extra money I have, I'm going to, buy me some shares and just hold on to them and see what happens. And those people built wealth. The people sitting on the sidelines sat still. So a lot of the reason for the wealth gap, not all the reason, but a lot of the reason for the wealth gap, based on gender, based on class, and based on race. A lot of the reason for the gap is driven by stock market participation. But here's the thing. When I say this, people get mad because they think that I'm acting like racism isn't real, or redlining didn't happen, or that white folks didn't spend 300 years taking all of our wealth. We know these things all happen. There's no doubt about that. So let me talk about a different gap. This is a different racial wealth gap that I want you guys to keep in mind. The racial wealth gap I'm going to refer to is the intra-racial wealth gap, not the interracial. Intra-racial wealth gap. I'm talking about the gap between the black man or woman who decides to invest and the black man or woman who doesn't invest, right? The black man or woman, the black man or woman, both of whom are making the exact same income, both of whom grew up in the hood, both of whom have the same education, both of whom have the same opportunities. One invests, one does not. Here's what's going to happen. The person who doesn't invest It's like two airplanes taking off, except one just stays on the ground. This person's airplane is doing this, is doing this, is doing this, right? It's doing this, right? And as this gap, and this is statistically proven, this is what occurs. So as this gap grows over a 20 or 30-year period, this gap starts getting filled with conspiracy theories, haterology, negativity. I can't stand her, or she must have slept her way to the top. Or only reason she got money is because her uncle Lulu left her a bunch of money, or she ain't really doing as well as she's pretending, right? You know what I'm talking about? You ever see that? Anybody in here successful and just know how many haters you get when you start actually winning because you did something different? Right? So this person here, unfortunately, this person here is in the majority. The majority of people stay here. There's that group of people that end up here because they made different choices. They made different choices. Last example I'll give you is, and I know we jumped beyond the Uber conversation, but I wanted to share. You guys know how I am. I want to make sure you walk away with something that you can benefit from. When I was born, my mother was 17 years old, and we did live in the projects. People don't believe me. They think I was born rich or something. I don't know where they get this crap from, but I was born in the projects with my mama as a 17-year-old single mother who was told to get an abortion. Right? That's my story. That's who I was as a child, worthless. A worthless little black boy. Just abort the baby and all your problems go away. I was that child. Growing up, my mother had friends who had children at the same time she did. You know how a lot of girls, when they hang out together, when they're teenagers, they all just somehow miraculously get pregnant at the same time. It's really an amazing phenomenon. It is such a thing. There is such a thing where women's hormones, for some reason, when they're in the same space, they actually start operating the same cycle. Their periods happen at the same time. And so there's actually a real biological phenomenon for this. It happens with all mammals, not just humans. But anyway, so my mother had a lot of friends who had babies the same time she did. So I had a lot of kids I grew up with as a child, and here's the thing. I noticed there was a difference in how my mother and my father raised me and my siblings versus how other people raised their kids. Other people's kids just went to school and just took whatever education was given to them. My mother would look for special programs for us for low-income families, right? See, I'm doing the trajectory here. Other people's kids would go get in trouble at school, and their parents would let them wouldn't put them on punishment, wouldn't do anything, would say, oh, the teacher's just racist. That's why, that's why she's acting like that, right? My mother held us accountable. My father held us accountable. Other people's kids were never encouraged to be financially intelligent or responsible, which continue the cycle of poverty. My family always taught me personal responsibility. My parents always said, you're responsible for what happens to you in your life. You can't make excuses, right? And so, my family, my parents always told me education was a key to success. Hard work was the key to success. They raised us different. And here's the thing. They used to make fun of my mother. They used to say, you're too hard on these kids, or, oh, it ain't that serious, or what's wrong with you, or, that ain't right. Well, guess what? My brother is a Cornell University graduate. My sister is a medical doctor who makes lots and lots of money. And I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, whatever that means to you. I don't have a single friend I grew up with, not one. Back when I was a little baby living in the projects, I did not have one single friend that I grew up with who can tell a similar story. It's not to diss them. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm not making fun of them. I'm not talking down on them. I'm saying that she and my father did different things, and we got different results, right? Like they just lived in their own lane. They were like, my mother, for example, all this stuff about you don't need no man, girl, he's bad, get rid of him. My mother's like, no, I love my black man. I need him in the house. Without him in the house, I can't manage these children. I can't, it's tough for me to provide without his help, right? They didn't walk around acting like they didn't need each other. They were always a unified force. Even if they disagreed, they always maintained their unity in front of the world. They were a united front all the time. So in that house, like it or not, it wasn't always perfect, but it was like an empire. They ran their house like a kingdom. And when you run your house like a kingdom, you produce kings and queens. You produce princes and princesses, right? When you run your house like a ghetto, or you run your house like some place that's just, you know, where dreams are killed and no aspirations are considered, and you're not aiming, and you're aiming low every single day of the week, then you're gonna get that low result. If you want to stay on the ground, then you will stay on the ground. But if you want to fly, then the sky's wide open. So what I would just say to you is that, you know, going back to the stock market investing thing, don't do what everybody else is doing. Just don't, because what everybody else is doing is wrong. And I don't blame them for doing the wrong thing, because they're being taught the wrong thing and they have faith in the wrong systems. I'm telling you to have faith in your system. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, your system should involve considerable, significant, sustained investment in different areas: stocks and bonds, real estate, entrepreneurship. Christmas is coming. Sure, buy your children some toys, but my grandma didn't buy me toys. My grandma bought me savings bonds. I don't believe you should buy your children savings bonds because they don't pay interest anymore. I'm a fan I'm a fan of buying shares of stock, because then at least they've got something that has the potential for growing in value. You buy them that toy will be in the garbage in about 9 months. That share of stock, if you buy it, put it into an account, leave it alone, buy 2 or 3 shares of stock every Christmas, every birthday, and then maybe just because every now and then you just stack that stuff, you just stack it, and you leave it there, and then you let it grow. It will grow like a sycamore tree in your backyard. And one day you're going to look outside and say, oh my God, look at that gigantic tree in my yard. I forgot about it, but I just watered it every couple of days. Right. So that's how people get rich. If you want to know, see, the thing about rich people is you've got rich people that, that just are made from birth, right? Because they get these huge inheritances. But then you got rich people who are grown like trees out of the ground. And there are some trees that grow, some trees that don't. Investors, their wealth grows like that tree. People who don't invest, their wealth stays flat. It does not grow at all. Don't be a flat person. Think bigger than that. So that's my 2 cents. That's my appeal to get you guys to consider investing. That's all I can say on that. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here, guys. Do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe, theblackfinancialchannel.com, THE, that's theblackfinancialchannel.com. Also, if you want to learn to invest, we can teach you that very quickly and then teach you all the rules in a way that is extraordinarily good. My stock market investing class is at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, THE, that's theblackstockmarketprogram.com. We have a business school for children. I believe that if your children are trained to invest early, your children will not be in the struggle. Your children won't be running around on welfare, running around complaining about how hard it is to be black. Your children by the age of 30 can easily be millionaires if you follow basic plans that we put together. So our business school for children is at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Where did I get my theories? Did I just make them up out of thin air? No. I've been a college professor for 25 years. My PhD is in finance. When I got my PhD in 2002, I was the only African-American on earth to get a PhD in finance that year. Go look it up. My dissertation's out there in the public eye. You can check all my credentials. I know what I'm talking about. And I just want to make sure that I teach this stuff to you guys, because I've taught this to white people since forever. That's why I left Syracuse University, because I actually wanted to teach black people. So this is what I'm doing right now. I'm just begging you for your grandchildren's sake, please do something now, and don't fall into this like, I'm black so I can't do nothing but complain mentality. That's how you end up giving yourself more to complain about. So that's it. That's my 2 cents. I'm gone. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you soon. Make sure you get the thumbs up button. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.